interrupt this message.
Bah! Gotcha. Hey guys. Alright, well, we're here at the, what us Napoleon kids like to call the pond. We're original. We're gonna study biodiversity over here.
First, we should probably understand heterotrophs and autotrophs.
An organism that cannot make its own organic food molecules from inorganic ingredients and must obtain them by consuming other organisms or their organic products. A consumer or a decomposer in a food chain. An organism that makes its own food from inorganic ingredients, thereby sustaining itself without eating other organisms or their molecules. Plants, algae, and photosynthetic bacteria are autotrophs.
We also need to understand sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction.
The creation of genetically distinct offspring with the fusion of two haploid sex cells, or the gametes, sperm and eggs, which then form a diploid zygote. The creation of genetically identical offspring by a single parent without the participation of gametes, or the sperm and egg.
Now that you have the basics, let's go. Mammals. When we think of mammals, we mainly think terrestrial, land animals. They also include nearly 1,000 different species of winged animals, along with 80 different species of aquatic animals. It's easy to relate mammals to ourselves. So they're vertebrates. They have a spine. They also have two distinct different characteristics: mammary glands and hair. The mammary glands produce the milk. This is so that the young can be nourished by their mom. And the hair insulates the body and helps us keep a warm, consistent temperature. Mammals are also heterotrophs. So they eat plants and animals to get their energy. Think of it in this environment of a squirrel. Squirrels eat nuts to get their energy. Luckily, or not luckily, I am the only mammal here at this moment. There are 3 different types of mammals. The monotremes, egg-laying mammals. An example of a monotreme would be the duck-billed platypus, which is the only one left. The marsupials are pouch mammals, like kangaroos. They complete their development on the external pouch. Now, then there's us, the eutherians. We're the placenta mammals. The placenta provides more of a comfort for parents, I think. It makes an intimate and longer lasting bond between the mother and the child. Now, covering 95% of all mammals is the eutherians.
We interrupt this message.
Being a class of their own, recent genetic and fossil evidence show that they evolved from a reptile. Birds are characterized by their feathers and their great flight equipment. Almost all bird species are airborne. I mean, except the ostrich and the penguin. We won't talk about that. But every part of their anatomy is modified to enhance their flight. They have honeycomb bone structures, so they have less weight. Their wingspan can be up to over 2 meters long. They also have the absence of organs that we have. They don't have teeth. The women also only have 1 organ. All of these make their flying so much easier. They're heterotrophs. They get their energy from other organisms. And believe me, they need it. Flying requires a lot of energy and a great metabolism. So, they are endotherms, which means that they use their own body heat to maintain a constant warm temperature. Unlike most animals, birds don't chew their food. Instead, they use their digestive tract, called gizzards, to grind up their food. What came first, the bird or the egg? Birds' offspring develop in eggs, which is a result of sexual reproduction. I know they're here because I can hear them everywhere, but why won't they come out? I don't understand this. Amphibians. Alright, amphibians. I don't really think they know who they are. So amphibians live a double life. They have a mixture of aquatic and land adaptations. It's pretty crazy. But I don't understand why they can't pick one. But they are tied to the water because of their eggs. Oh! Obvious. Amphibians are also heterotrophs. They get their energy from insects and algae. As they're younger, they feed off the algae, and then they metamorphosize into insect eaters. As they metamorphosize through that phase, they go from algae eater to insect eater. Amphibians also reproduce sexually with the egg and a sperm. Now, amphibians lay eggs. So once they lay their eggs, those eggs turn into larvae. Those larvae then turn into the tadpoles, which then make their way onto land. Amphibians, oh yeah.
Fishy, fishy.
Fish.
Fishy, fishy. Fish, fish, lick bite, lick bite. Fish, fish, lick bite, lick bite. Fish, fish.
Fish are aquatic animals. Unlike others, they lack jaws. They have hinged body parts that work them out. They first evolved about 470 million years ago. It's pretty old. Some types of them are hagfish, lamprey, and bony fish. They reproduce sexually, laying their eggs, which then get fertilized sexually. They're heterotrophs, which means they feed off other things in order to get their energy. Fishy, fishy, fishy. In here you'd find fish like bluegill, minnow, bass. And when you think about it, obviously they're heterotrophs. If you throw a bait in there, they're gonna bite it. They need it to survive. I'm a little fish. The anthropods. Now, on to anthropods. Anthropods are members of the most diverse phylum of the animal kingdom. They are categorized by their exoskeleton, their ability to molt, jointed appendages, and a body formed of distinct groups of segments. They are heterotrophs, which means that they feed off of other organic materials, such as other plants, other animals. An example of this is our favorite, the spider.
Love them or hate them, spiders are an important part of our balance in our ecosystem. Spiders reproduce sexually. The man seeks out the woman. They produce many offspring at once.
Prokaryotes. Okay, so prokaryotes are characterized by their prokaryotic cells. So they lack nucleuses and organelles. They're only found in the bacteria and the archaea domains. So they're decomposers, which they break down organic waste in dead organisms. So let's go find some. Bacteria, 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 bacteria.
Prokaryotes reproduce asexually. In the right conditions, many reproduce at phenomenal rates. The cells copy their DNA almost continuously and divide again and again by the process of which they call binary fission. When you divide by binary fission, a single cell becomes 2 cells, which then becomes 4 cells, then 8, then 16, and so on and so on. This is why this frog will decompose very quickly, because the bacteria will just reproduce and cover it all. It's pretty crazy.
Fungi. Now fungi, they're chemoheterotrophs. That's how they get their energy. They consume organic material, so they have these fungus roots. So they absorb the nutrients to the plant. And they digest their food from the outside, but just absorb the nutrients. They are also eukaryotic. Fungi can reproduce either sexually or asexually. They do this by their haploid spores. Haploid spores are released, carried, and then they germinate. They produce mycelia if they are landed in moisture. With food, they disperse and they thrive.
Algae.
We're gonna explore the world of algae.
Algae is a photosynthetic protist. Their chloroplasts support their food chains in these types of environments. They thrive in freshwater and marine environments. Many scientists are now looking at these for biofuels because they convert light energy straight into chemical energy.
No, absorbing sun's energy helps.
Which means they're also photoautotrophs.
There are 3 types of algae: plankton, dinoflagellates, and diet. Here we are exploring green algae. The green is it's algae. Makes sense. They're either flagellates, which means they have flagella to propel themselves, volvex, which are groups of colonies of these algae. Algae is the most like the plants. I've got algae on my fingers! Angiosperms. Can you spot the nearest angiosperm? An angiosperm is a plant which forms seeds inside a protective pocket that they call an ovary. There are over 2,500,000 different species of these. These adaptations are especially present in the flower. Now these little guys are very dependent on animals. The pollen from a sperm-bearing organ of one flower is transported to an egg-bearing organs of another. Think of it like the bees. The bees pick up the pollen and just transport it to another place. That's what helps them reproduce. As we know, flowers, like most plants, go through photosynthesis, which means they are photoautotrophs.
No, absorbing sun's energy helping them stay
They get
strong.
their energy from the sun, 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 sun,
No,
sun,
absorbing sun's
Sun,
energy
sun,
helping them stay
sun.
strong.
This thing on? Are you a little baby fern? Fern, 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 fern. So ferns are land plants. The most diverse seedless vascular plant, usually found on the floor of the forest. In order for a fern to reproduce, its sperm must swim through the film of the water to fertilize the eggs. So they reproduce sexually. Ferns are photoautotrophs
No, absorbing sun's energy helping.
that undergo photosynthesis in order to get their energy. It would only make sense that ferns would be next to this. Not only is there the forest area, but there is the water. So, and they can fertilize and flourish here. A way to use all of this to benefit ourselves: the sunlight to the plants to the consumers die, the decomposers come in, back to the plants. The circle of life.
And it moves us all through despair and hope.
I would just like to take a moment. Everybody calls this place a dump. That ain't no dump, that's pretty.